Hello and welcome to Velocity Advanced Training. My name is Michelle Araujo and today we're going to talk about post-submission, everything that happens with your application after you have submitted it to your lender. We're going to focus on moving your statuses forward from submitted to approved to ready for funding. And we're going to talk about we're going to focus on your conditions and documents and how to automate them as much as possible. So hopefully everyone who's on the line has already attended basic training and you're comfortable with the process of submitting your applications. So I have my application that is already open here. This is our application number 15374 for Bob Daniels. I'm looking at the deal in the modern view. I definitely recommend that you work with your applications in modern view. If you do prefer working in classic view for the sake of creating new applications because it can be a bit more familiar to a lot of people, then I would say go for it. Like put your new applications in using the classic view so that it's more familiar, but don't make it your default because you're going to spend more time going in and out of your application after you've submitted the deal, as you follow up on conditions and check out reminders and fix up anything that changes in terms of your numbers or changing your monthly payments to biweekly, that kind of thing. And it's a little bit easier to work in modern view for all of that kind of action that happens after the fact. The other great thing about the modern view is that you can decide what order you'd like each section to appear in. So in my example here, I have my reminders at the very top and I have it automatically expanded so I don't have to click on it to see what my reminders are. And then I have my conditions and documents, my mortgage request, because these are the areas that I work on the most often once my deal has been submitted. And then I have my borrowers sort of all the way down here because I don't usually have to go back and see what Mr. Daniel's date of birth is and all that good stuff. So it's up to you the order that you like your application to appear and whether or not you agree that working in the modern view is easier after submission, but it is totally up to you, of course. So our application has already been submitted. So one thing that I want to point out in case you missed it during basic training is that the mortgage request section, once you have submitted your application, Velocity is going to indicate that it was submitted. It's going to have the date and time the button is activated. And when you have your deal approved, the approved button will also be activated. Now, this happens automatically when you're dealing with a Velocity connected lender. If you have pushed your deal over into Expert in order to get access to that lender and to be able to submit to that lender, Velocity doesn't realize if you have submitted or not submitted. It knows that you pushed it to Expert, but it doesn't know if you actually finished it off and submitted the deal. So you click the blue button to change that status to submitted and to activate that button. And the same thing with the approved button. If your lender does not respond back into Velocity, then go ahead and click the green button so that you do have the status up to date. And that means that any of your CRMs and workflows that are set to trigger once a deal is approved will move forward. So that's my tip there. My second tip is to make sure that you are updating all the details of the loan so that when you're generating your disclosure documents, they are pulling the most up-to-date information. So this is my 5-year closed product. I might have to change my mortgage amount. I might have to change my first payment date or perhaps biweekly payments instead of monthly payments. So you can make all of your adjustments in here if anything has changed from your initial submission. All right, so we're going to then move on into our conditions and documents. And this is the part where I think Velocity really starts to shine for you in terms of making your life more organized. So what happens in conditions and documents is the system gives you this blue bar and lets you know that you have automatic conditions that could be applied to this application that have not been applied yet. And if you want them to apply, you click this blue bar in order to make that happen. So when you click the blue bar, it populates your conditions list for you based on whatever conditions and whatever parameters you have put in. So for example, if I said I want an MPP insurance form to show up on every one of my deals, that's something I would set up to trigger for every kind of application. If I want a pay stub to show up only for my salaried and my hourly clients, then the pay stub would show up for those cases. If I want T1 generals to show up for my self-employed customers, then I can set all that up. So what you want to do here is you want to end up with a checklist of all the conditions that you want to collect for this particular application, and you want to do it with as little manual labor as possible. So I'll show you how to set this up so that moving forward it will automatically populate your conditions within each application. So you're going to come up here to Me, and you're going to go to Settings. And about 3/4 of the way down your user settings, you're going to find the Conditions and Documents section. And in here you have the option to create your own custom conditions and to create your, to select your smart conditions. So smart conditions, they're automatically going to be added to every one of your deals, and it's going to be based on whatever smart filters you've applied. So yours will be blank. Mine, I already have smart conditions list happening here. So what you're going to do is go through the list of conditions and decide which ones you would like to be smart conditions. So you're going to go through your basics. So I would suggest going right down to the bottom of the list and starting down there. So you're going to add MPP insurance. You're going to add either your Alberta or your BC, so whatever province you're in, you're going to add your most used disclosure documents. You're going to add probably a signed commitment. Maybe you have a know your client form that you ask for all the time. So you're just going to go through this list and you're going to pick your most common documents first. And when you add one of these, let's say the void check, you're going to click Add. It's going to give you the option to make this a smart condition. Do you want to apply it only to certain borrowers or only to certain subject properties, certain kind of mortgages? When it comes to those typical conditions that you ask for on 99% of your applications, you don't worry about any of the filters. You simply say Save. So that will apply this void check to every one of your applications. Where you're going to use your smart conditions is when you add things like your pay stub and your job letter and your let's say you have a BFS package number 1 or BFS package number 2, depending on what kind of business for self client you have. So let's say if you're going to add BFS confirmation number 2 and you want to click Add, and in this case you're going to put a filter in, and the filter is going to be a borrower filter, and you're going to tick this little box here. And then you want to say, okay, so this is going to be for anyone, an applicant or a guarantor. It doesn't matter what their residency status is. The only thing that matters to me here is that they have an income type, which is self-employed. So if I have someone who is self-employed or somebody who is, I don't know, maybe commissions, then I want to ask for the BFS confirmation package too. So that's an example of how you could have smart filters come through. So you don't want to have, like I do here, you have multiple pay stubs. So in this case here, I would probably get rid of the duplicate and say okay, and I would just make sure that I have the pay stub filtered correctly for the right people. So hourly commission, and salary. I'm asking for pay stubs for those people. So that would cover everything off. You know, you've got your typical, your signed commitment, your void check, your MPP insurance, any of the conditions you ask for all the time. They are easy. Just add them in. No filters apply to any of these clients. And then when it comes to your pay stubs and job letters, bank statements, I hope that gives you an idea of how to create and manage your smart conditions. If you're looking for a condition that doesn't exist, or you want to change the name, or maybe BFS confirmation number 2 is not clear enough, you can create your own custom condition. So that just happens in the top section here. You go into the custom conditions and you say, I'm going to add a new condition that will appear in the income section or the insurance section or the signed document section, and then you just name it whatever your custom condition would be named and click Add. Once you have your smart conditions, any application that you do from now on will always ask you in the conditions section. It will let you know that you have default conditions that have not yet been applied, and it gives you the chance to actually apply them, because you don't want to do it in every single circumstance. Like, there are maybe some circumstances where the condition package is unique or you already have a full package, so you don't want it to just blindly be added to all of your deals. It gives you the option to push the blue bar to request that they be applied. Okay, so now you have your complete list of all of your conditions. So some of the conditions that you've added are they generate the forms. Like the MPP insurance, it creates the form when you expand the line. So there's my MPP insurance. I added it as an automatic smart condition. I click on the line and I say create PDF. And if I have everything filled in that MPP needs to get that quote, it will create the form for me. If I don't, it's going to give me a list of validation errors that I have to correct before I can get that PDF. Okay, so let's say you have not filled out your smart conditions properly. You'd come down into your compliance documents section and you wouldn't find your provincial form. So in that case, you'd have to manually go to add or upload condition, find the provincial form that you're looking for. Let's say the BC prescribed form 10 as an example, and hit close. So rather than having to do that every time, I prefer to make it one of my smart conditions. The end result is the same. You've got your BC prescribed form 10 that needs to be generated. When you click on the line, it asks you to fill in certain information. Usually there's some kind of an option for you to select to have it pre-fill. In this case, it's generate interest text. And when you generate, where did I go? When you generate interest text, it fills in the information for you based on what was set up at my brokerage. And then once that's done, you would say create PDF, and it will create the form for you for your disclosure. So you've got your green message saying that you successfully created your document. You can also see now that there's a button that wasn't there before, which is to view your disclosure document, and it would be sort of the same thing for any of the provinces that you're in. Of course, the forms will be different, and what is required in order to get your form would be different, but the process is the same. Add the condition using your smart condition, so it will be there for you automatically. Open it up and hit create PDF after you've checked to see if all of the fields that are required have been filled in. You'll also see that you have a little paper clip showing that there's a document attached to this line. All right, so now this is when I'm going to go through and I'm going to make a checklist for my client to know exactly what I need them to send my way. So this pay stub one, this is actually a duplicate, so if that ever happens to you, you can simply expand the line and click archive to get rid of it. So now I need a pay stub, I need a pay stub for Douglas, I need a job letter, T1 General, bank statements. I need only one solicitor, I don't need two solicitors, so I'll hide that one. And so you'll just go through, and I need my signed prescribed BC Form 10. So any of these items that are listed, you could add more details in, and those notes would show up for you. Oh, why are they not showing up? Notes detailing what is required. There we go. So they would show up in the notes section here. So you can put your extra comments in there if you want to say, you know, it has to be from February, or it has to be for Daniel, or BFS confirmation, you know, what the details are that you need. You can add them in as additional comments. So you're going to put together this checklist now, and you're going to send a note over to the client to let them know what you need from them. So I'm going to send over an email to my client. It's going to have a conditions checklist, and it's going to have documents attached. If there are any MPP forms or any like that BC disclosure. So I'm not going to send him back his pay stub. I'm not going to send him back this one and this one and this one. So bad examples, but this is my BC prescribed Form 10. I'm sending it as a PDF attachment, and here's my checklist telling my clients what I need them to send to me. I'm going to send the email from myself, or if I'm someone's assistant, I'm going to send the email from the broker. It looks like it's coming from my email address, and then you're going to put the email address in of the client who you're emailing. Okay, so you could change the subject if you like. You can click send, and that's going to get that email off to Bob Daniels. Once Bob starts to send the documentation your way, you can simply expand the line and you can hit upload and you can do your attachment for documents. We'll pretend this is his pay stub and it will upload for you and it'll be attached to your application. Once you start getting your application conditions in, you're going to be able to upload them within Velocity. You're also going to be able to send an email using Velocity over to your underwriter. So you'll say, I want this pay stub, compress that, this job letter, and the T1 general. So anything that has a paperclip attached to it, essentially, these are documents that are uploaded, that you have uploaded into Velocity. When you are trying to send the attachments, you want to send them as documents. So email the documents, that would put the attachments in at the bottom there, and this time it's going to go from Michelle to my underwriter, and that's going to send the email off to your underwriter. Any emails that you're sending through Velocity are tracked at the very bottom of the application. In the system email history, you've got your email in there. You can open it up to see what was sent or to resend if you need to. And then once you sent your documents over to the underwriter, especially if you're working on a team, I find this handy. You can simply put the little, use the legend here to say, yep, these documents have already been sent over to my underwriter. And once the underwriter has approved those documents, you can indicate that with the check mark, which then puts the date that these documents were accepted into the system. When you get your signed commitment in, if you take a minute to upload that document, or if you just want to indicate that if you want to change the unsigned button to say, yes, I have a signature, then as soon as you upload that signed commitment, then the deal status actually changes to accepted. And then once all of your lender conditions have been met, there's a little checkbox right here. If you tick this off, all lender conditions are met, then the deal status changes to waiting to close. Once February the 16th hits, we have a 3-day grace period where this will still say waiting to close. 3 days after the closing date, it will change to funded and awaiting payment. If you don't have all lender conditions met and you want to set a reminder to you or your assistant to follow up on conditions, you can pick any of these conditions and use this little calendar icon to set a reminder task. And you could do a follow-up. You could decide what date you would like to be reminded. So let's follow up for the MPP insurance and have it show up in my calendar, or I could also have it show up in someone else's calendar if I prefer. So you could have it show up for both of you, and that's how you would set different reminders on the system. Those tasks that you set manually or the tasks that you set up through workflows, they will show up in the application on the correct date. They will show up for the people that the task is assigned to, and it'll also show up in their shortcuts, in their task list for today. That will be one of the options, and they'll be able to drop into the deal from that reminder. And that's where your workflow items will also show up if they're deal-based. All right, so that is our conditions and documents and how to move your deal through the different statuses. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon, and I hope to talk to you again soon.